Good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, okay. This is the CSM panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We will start by introductions of every member. Then the chairman will hold a short presentation of what the CSM has been doing and what it is, if you don't know already. And then afterwards, we have an open mic for questions. So just line up when he's finishing his presentation, and you can ask them anything. So, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bolin / Izzur Daines, and I'm both surprised and happy to be here on CSM3. For those folks that understood how I managed to come to be in this particular panel. I hope to answer any question you have. I'm focused mostly on industrial and kind of revamping low-sec.
Hi, I'm Misa Anunciol. I'm with the Rooks and Kings Alliance, and I focus on just about every aspect of the game.
Hi guys, my name is Vuklau. I'm from Ursus Mihi. I'm serving my second term as CSM delegate, and I would just use this opportunity to thank CCP for this awesome concept. Thank you.
I'm Deirdre Val from Eve University. I'm also serving my second term. I'm the chairman of this crazy bunch. So, that's me.
Yes, hello, I'm Alpha.
I'm John Zastro, perhaps better known as Zastro. I'm a Goonswarm director, and I'm here by the will of the people to fight for your interests.
Yes, I'm Hendrik. I'm playing character Eric Finnegan, and I'm representing the Care Bears on this console.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, otherwise known as Ombazombie. I represent the Bit of Vets. And I'm also the vice chairman.
And then the empty chair is supposed to be Maslow from Pandemic Legion, but we lost.
Alison had a blast last night, I understand, so she'll be here in a minute.
Yeah, she's rushing over.
She's having breakfast.
And my name is August Ingþórsson. I have been a moderator of the 3 CSM CCP formal meetings that have been held so far. So they asked me to moderate this session today as well, between the panel on one hand and you guys on the other. But before we get started on the question, the chairman has a short presentation about what the CSM has actually been doing. So take it away.
Yeah, it's Internet Spaceship Series business to make sure people are a bit aware of what we do, because that's one of the biggest bits of criticism that we get is what does the CSM actually do? What we do is we have, at least in this season, we have bi-weekly meetings where we discuss issues that have been brought up on the forums. We discuss these issues to vote on them. The ones that get voted through eventually end up on the table with CCP. And that's the other part of what we do. We have meetings with CCP. We bring the issues to CCP through our bi-weekly meetings. We discuss them. Magic happens, and hopefully there's profit. CCP will then, presumably, or that's our intention, make changes to the game that we feel are good in the best interest of the game. Now, does this actually work? Yes, it does actually work. For those, as you can see, I've plotted a small graph. Everyone loves graphs. The issues that have been put forward to CCP. As you can see, we have a pretty high success rate. The ones that are denied are shown in purple. That it's a relatively small percentage of the total. So most of the issues that get eventually voted through the CSM, most of those will end up being approved by CCP. As you can see, there's actually a reason, almost 1/5 of the issues has been developed within 1 year. A lot of people always say, well, the CSM is just a publicity stunt. It doesn't actually do anything. But you can see that we've had a lot of issues that have been voted on, put forth to CCP, and have been developed in the past year and a half that the CSM has been active. So getting involved for the player base at large is very important because that's what makes CSM work. So there's a few ways you can get involved in the whole process. You can bring up your own issues, of course. If you think, hey, you know what, I think Titan Doomsdays are actually a really good idea, as they are. You can make an assembly hall thread about that. If you get enough support and you get one of the CSM members to take your topic to the council, that can get voted on. Assuming it's a good enough topic, it can then go on and come before CCP. Of course, another way you can get directly involved is if you run for a seat on the council. Of course, you need to make sure you have enough votes. This council, CSM3, I think you needed 1,000 votes minimum to be on the council. So if you can get enough votes, it's a really cool thing to do. It does take a lot of time that you need to have available. Of course, the most important thing is that you vote in the elections and that you get other people to vote in the elections. It doesn't really matter who you vote for. I'm assuming you vote for someone that you support. But getting enough votes is really important for the success of the CSM. Right now we had about 10% voter turnout, which isn't bad, but it could be a lot better. And it's the goal of CCP and CSM to increase that to, I think it was 20%? Yep. 20% of the player base.
One thing about that, it's 10% of the player base of votes, but it's a lot higher percentage of people who actually read the forums. So people who do get involved actually vote.
Yeah. I think it might have been roughly 30% of the forum. Yeah, roughly 30% of the forum readers actually voted. So we're trying to figure out better ways of getting more votes.
Looking ahead of what we're doing to improve the CSM, the main thing we want to do is be used more by the CCP, as John Zastro put it.
Use me.
We want to be used like a cheap hooker. We've requested that CCP send a feedback request to us before each of the 3 CSM-CCP meetings that you have in a term. Normally, it only works the other way around. We send stuff to CCP. We want it to work the other way around from them to us as well. Other than that, we want to basically just find more ways to get feedback and communication to and from the CSM to CCP. And now we'll be ready to take your questions if you have any. If you have any.
There's a mic there, so if you have questions, because this is a big, big room, if you could step up to the mic.
Don't be shy.
Who wants to be first, huh? Please, go ahead.
Before today, can you just give us an example of one of the 2 things that have been passed and changes that have been made in game, which just started in the assembly hall and ended up in a patch somewhere?
Dominions. It takes a while for things that the CSM brings up to really start showing up in game, but a lot of these changes in Dominions you can trace back to the huge incentivizing 0-0 thread that was started with the CSM1, proceeded through CSM2, and is now being implemented with Dominions. Another thing that personally I remember, because I brought it up when we had our CSM summit a couple weeks ago, we started talking about assault frigates, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if assault frigates had a 15% afterburner bonus per level? And now if you go look at CC, assault frigates have a 15% afterburner speed bonus per level. So there are, I think we have somewhere a list of specific things that started in the assembly hall and then made it into the game.
Fuel base is another example of something.
And same with the skills gear.
Published? I mean, are they in the assembly hall of your list of successful things?
I just can't hear you.
Yeah, is that list kind of published, or could you go online and have a look? This is what it is, because that's maybe a motivation. People might actually look and see.
We have.
If you can answer. It's what started with last term. The wiki we set up is now being merged into the Evilopedia. So in the Evilopedia we have a category, it's called CSM, and there you'll find everything that's related to CSM, both the issues as well as the meeting protocols and the procedures, what CSM is all about.
Basically everything that's been raised, talk to CCP about what's been implemented, what hasn't been implemented, what's been rejected. Everything's Evilopedia. It's actually a good thing.
No, I understand, because what you ask is actually something we ask CCP as well. Like, just anything that is done by CSM, tag it in the patch notes. but actually proves a bit difficult because sometimes issues that end up in the game are inspired by the CSM, but at the same time it's not 100% because of the CSM. So tagging stuff like that is difficult, although recently in a few dev blogs, the CSM has been, especially the Dominion dev blogs, CSM has been mentioned. And Lau just mentioned the skill queue is another typical.
I was going to say, one of the things I think that's important to remember too is that the CSM and the CCP work in a kind of a collaborative fashion. So a lot of times it might not be that, you know, somebody asks for this specific type of feature. What would happen is that gets into a discussion between CSM and CCP, and it results in something similar or inspired by a good example of something I think that's very concrete in the game is I wasn't part of CSM1, but I understood that the discussions they had with CCP were instrumental in the creation of the Orca. That's a very real thing that I think came as a direct result of the feedback the CSM1 had received from the player base, and then some very detailed discussions about this hole they felt in the game in terms of available ships. So I think a lot goes on that you can't actually point at a specific Assembly Hall forum post at, but actually did result from the feedback that we get that we then pass on.
Generally, the most unthankful thing with CSM is that work from your personal work can be shown as result in earliest year, sometimes even more. So that's one of the main problems with seeing actual results of CSM, because as John mentioned, stuff about boosting 0.0 was discussed in CSM 1, and it will actually get alive with CSM 4. So that's like 2 years to see actual result of some of CSM ideas. But same as Eric said, there are wiki we just got like for this term, so we still need to migrate all the issues raised and discussed, but I think that soon if we got enough support from ISD department, which is actually maintaining the wiki, which is like at the moment the biggest problem, you will have a really good overview of the stuff CSM did.
All of the CSM2 and 3 issues are actually already on the wiki. You can find them on the Evilopedia. One of the things that we actually really do is, for Dominion, during CSM2, CCP, Abather, and one of the other designers whose name escapes me at the moment, they came to us and we had a 6-ish hours brainstorming session about the ideas they had about what they wanted Dominion to be and what we wanted Dominion to be. And most of the discussion that took place and the consensus that we reached at that time have made it into the game. About 80% of that is something you will be hearing about either today or tomorrow at the panels. So in that sense, the CSM has a real effect on stuff, and the SL frigates, skill queues, all these things, they really actually matter and care.
And maybe to add also that on the aspect that it's a cooperative work between CSM and CCP, like in the last Iceland meetings, we agreed on industry features that did not receive that much love as some.
If I may, can everyone just give a round of applause for Masliu, who finally showed up?
So you say, welcome to Alison. You want to introduce yourself? Or?
Hello, I'm Mazulu from the CSM. I'm the Pandemic Legion delegate. Thanks for all your votes. I'm really enjoying my trip to Iceland.
So as you can hear, I mean, almost everybody has spoken on the panel, and they all think that, you know, it's been worthwhile. I was asked at a few days' notice to moderate, sort of to step in for somebody else, to moderate the first CSM panel, because I guess CCP wasn't quite sure how it was going to turn out. There was a little bit of a tension within the first council. As you saw from the graph that Valentin produced, there was a lot of, the biggest number of issues so far was raised at the first CSM-CCP meeting. So they were a little bit nervous. And to be honest, I had to be sort of a moderator and step in a couple of times during the first meeting, but during the last meeting, not so long ago, there was hardly any need for me. And you can hear this from the rhetoric. I think 3 of you mentioned cooperation or collaboration between the Council and CCP.
Yeah, if I wanted to finish that thought,
Yeah.
what I was about to say as Masilio came in, that we agreed with CCP that they will shift into their current development industry features that we will bring to them as a prioritized list. So it's not a yes, no, we can't do this thing, but we were debating, seeing how we could have industry features represented in development, and so that's how it's got done.
That's sort of leading up maybe to a question, because I remind you, there's a mic there, so please step up if you have a question or if you have a comment. What do you think of the CSM? But my question sort of was leading on to this. When I first looked at the list as a moderator of a meeting, there were like almost 70 items on the agenda. That's a horrendous agenda. And my feeling is that the Council is slowly moving towards being more active in prioritizing. And since you're sort of a veteran of this game, you were on the first Council and now you're chairman of the third Council, would you agree, Valentin?
Well, it's definitely gotten to a point where I think the Council also understands a bit, and CCP as well, are a bit more familiar with how these two organizations, or CSM and CCP, sort of work together. And it's all gotten a bit more smooth. Instead of just dumping a whole lot of issues on CCP, it is sort of the consensus of the CSM that it is very important not just to have all these issues that range from big stuff like the incentivizing 0-0 to tiny bits like, hey, I think we need to change this part of the UI in a different color. But what we want to have more, and I showed this in my slides, is to have more feedback requests, more brainstorming sessions. So I definitely see an evolution there from the first CSM, which was really just a huge pile of issues, to a CSM that works more closely with CCP and understands the development process. And although CCP wants to do a lot of things, we are involved in saying, well, we feel that this is more important than issue and then other issues, and that certain things need to have a higher priority in the development backlog.
Okay. Question or comment?
Yeah, I have a question. It's 2 parts. Part number 1 is, what are you, the CSM, going to do for the future about people like Larconis Trassler that violated not only EVE and a non-disclosure agreement, but also, I mean, that's offensive to everybody that plays this game, what he did. And why isn't that guy permanently banned for what he did? I mean, they've banned people in this game for less. And this guy did that. Not only did he do it, but he told people in his corp who then followed suit and were banned also, but only for 30 days. That guy could have dramatically changed the game, his corp, with the amount of money he would have made, and it's just a travesty to me. When I see on a forums, Scrap Heap Challenge forums, that the guy's posting basically laughing about it, thinking it's a joke. It's a joke to me that you guys only banned him for 30 days.
I heard some people asking what he did. If you guys don't know, we were talking with CCP a couple weeks ago about upcoming changes, and he acted on those changes to buy and sell some things on the market, practicing insider trading to make some money. And he was found out and banned.
If I can add, I think that the stuff Larconis did was extremely stupid and extremely, I don't have words. And anyway, I personally asked for permanent ban of all of his accounts, but as usual, CCP has the final word. And I think that his case is not closed yet, so we will see how CCP will do in the future.
Valentin, you wanted to answer that, and then you do?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
First of all, when you say, like, why did you only ban him 30 days? We didn't ban him. CCP banned him. Then ultimately, like the stuff that it's some people blow it out of proportion. Yes, he did violate trust. He screwed up big time. But on the other hand, we know what he did, and quite honestly, I very much doubt he would have made much money even if he hadn't been caught.
No other hand.
So
The thing is, you have to realize all that it is a contract reached between Larconis, well, Adam, and CCP. The CSM has nothing to do with how to handle a contract breach. It's a contract between two entities, in this case, one person and CCP. We don't have to handle how punished he is or isn't, as some perceive. Either way, these things, the work of the CSM now is how to make sure that the trust exists between the CSM and CCP in the light of such events that are able to occur. And the fact that we should all be happy about is that it's not that it happened, but that he was caught and dealt with. That's the important thing. So future delegates, should they want to do such things again, they will think 2 or 3 times before doing so.
Maybe another aspect, that it shows that we do get sensitive information from CCP in the first place. So they trust us and do disclose information to us that other players do not have access to. So that allows both wrongdoing, but also for us being a partner to CCP in discussions. So whether or not it will happen again, we don't know. But as Misa said, it's good that it was disclosed and it was discovered, and the internal affairs of CCP are very rigid and very attentive. So we can only hope that it does not break the trust that has been established between CCP and CSM.
Yeah, it was dealt with very swiftly, if I remember. You want to say it on this question?
Well, I did want to make a comment, since actually I get to be the person to pick up the pieces of that particular act of stupidity. I've taken some flack in the forums for some of my comments. I think it was really incredibly stupid and wrong in what he did. I couldn't care if he was going to make a bazillion billions or 1 ISK. It doesn't matter how much he would have made or didn't make. What the issue was is he violated the trust of CCP, violated the trust of the CSM, and ultimately he failed his support base. He is a fellow that had totally different views of what makes sense in EVE than I do, and I'm now replacing him. And I don't think anybody that voted for him would consider voting for me. And so who I think he ultimately failed are the folks that seem to want to support him. I also agree. I hope CCP reconsiders the length of the ban. I think it was a serious enough breach that a perma ban made sense. And I think that would set the proper message for folks going forward. But again, I'm glad you asked the question, and I agree with your views that 30 days is kind of laughable.
Everything that everyone here has said is valid, but I think they're missing the question you asked, which is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do to prevent it in the future? Well, we make people sign an NDA and we throw them out if they break it. That's all we can do. We can't control the actions of one person who wants to go and be stupid. We can discourage it, but other than bringing them out in an alley and flogging them, I think the actions that we've taken are about all we can do, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
I'd also just like to note that CCP knew about this within 12 hours of it happening. Like, they do monitor all of our accounts for things like this. So if you are intending to run for CSM and do stupid things like that, you will get banned. They know.
Do you have a question or a comment from the audience? Yep, please.
Okay, my comment is that... Please take up. Okay, is that better now? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, my comment is that it's my opinion that EVE is a better place, better game with the CSM than without, and I think that many of the players think like that. However, you should be aware that the players who are already quite some years in the game have developed over the years an aversion for the forums. Meaning that we do not go to the forums anymore. We only go if we really need to go there. It's not funny anymore on the forums. And because the CSM is hosted on the forums, I think that's also one of the elements that makes that okay, maybe you don't get all the comments from the players and you don't get all the support. I think that's something that needs to be thought about, how that can be improved.
This isn't something we've missed, and we've talked to CCP about it. The hope is that with the space book, Cosmos, or whatever they're calling it, that's coming out, that there will be tools for us to communicate back and forth with you guys better that aren't going to be through the forums.
Sorry, I would also encourage the players that if you have an issue, that there's a specific CSM delegate that shares your interest to contact them personally. Because I've had numerous players contact me by email and say, hey, look at this for me. And I mean, fortunately, I'm a member of the Alliance Alliance, and I've had a lot of my own Alliance members contact me and say, hey, please look at this and allow me this. And I've made a lot of posts in the assembly hall bringing up issues that weren't specifically my own design, but I'm representing them for my own constituents, that people that wanted me to put the flag down and go forward with it. So if it's something that you feel strongly about, contact someone, contact multiple CSM people.
On that note, Brian, a lot of us are Alliance directors up here, and our email box are worthless. We have so many random emails coming in for people applying to the corporations or POS mails or whatever that there may be times people try to send me an email and I just haven't seen it because my inbox is useless. So sorry.
Yeah, but anyway, we discussed with CCP about having more tools integrated into client, and I hope with Cosmos eventually we will get something like that.
And maybe I can add, luckily I'm not an alliance leader, so my email box is not that full. You can contact me and I will read your emails.
You had more to your comment?
And then I have a suggestion. In the assembly hall, if you take a look there, then we may get the impression that over CSM 1 to 2 to 3, the work that has been done is more or less the gathering of a shopping list, a shopping basket that is presented to CCP, and some of the elements of the shopping baskets are approved and others are not. Now, the suggestion I would like to make is that on the one hand that approach is a good approach, but you should also, I think, have another approach, meaning a more strategic approach, like, for instance, assembling a number of those shopping basket items under a common goal to improve the game. And one of those goals could be, and there are many goals, but one of the goals could be to make the game in a whole simpler. I believe that making the game simpler for the newer players and also for, unfortunately, the experienced players is something that is not so easy to do. And I think that the CSM can play a very important role there. And that is another approach than picking one element there and one element there to improve, and one element there and one element there.
There's
thanks a lot.
several elements of answer to your comment. The first thing is the shopping basket thing metaphor you've been using. It's true that in the past we've been basically taking a number of issues from the forums, discussing them and then pushing them to CCP, and what we did last time was have 75-ish issues to discuss. While it is important to some extent, the thing we're trying to move more towards is being a sounding board, someone to throw ideas and concepts at, react, and see how the implementation CCP currently has in mind resonates with the players and how we receive it, and what improvement they could do to it. The second aspect is about making the game simpler. CCP, Eris Discordia was talking to us last CCP meeting about everything they're doing about the tutorial and not the simplification, because I think EVE is, the complex nature of EVE is something that defines EVE, but lowering the learning curve, that's something they're actively working on at the moment already. So these two things are things that we are actually currently working on with CCP.
You want to address that, Valentin?
It's, as you say, you have a shopping basket of items that you present to CCP, but it's not a random collection of items that, you know, I don't roll a dice to decide which threads I'm going to support on the forums. I have a certain vision for the game, and based on that, I will take issues from the forums, and the same goes for the other council members. So essentially, all the ideas that I bring to the council fit within my vision for the game. So you definitely have that more strategic vision that is actually presented in the types of issues that you bring to the council.
Also, the procedure, how we work with CCP, it's constantly evolving. The issues that we bring to CCP, they're now specially tagged, as we learn. So, and they're tracked through Peter. So we're not tossing that stuff onto them and then get the yes/no remark and then they're done and over with. But they can be traced and will be traced by the next CSM to see whether there is still a need, whether they have been resolved by other development, or if they need to be pushed higher in the priority list. And CCP also told us during the meetings, like, okay, this is a cool feature, would be big though, but if you will really want to have it done, then come back with it again. So this is an ongoing process, and it changes how we deal with the subject, and CCP has to also find out what the best way is.
Just to go a bit further on that, something we started in CSM2 and continued in CSM3 is at the end of our meetings with CCP, we actually go back through every issue that's ever been raised by CSM and see whether it's been put into the backlog, put in development, where is it, at what stage, and where in the backlog. And things that from in there that they see as, hang on, we've just built that, can put it now into development. It allows for a continuation of CSM, which probably isn't communicated all that well to the community, but it does happen.
And we want to extend on the brainstorming sessions that we had with CCP that do go more into that, well, into the further future. But you also need the issue list as something that you can track, finally, and not some nice words, okay, good, we spoke about it. But so we have both approaches, I think, the vision and the concrete matters.
Michelle, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I wanted to actually point out that there's a kind of a range of things the CSM does. Some of them, this CSM3 seems to have had a lot of very specific pointed issues. I think somebody said 75 were brought up. Those largely originate basically as they are filtered by the individual CSM members looking at the forums. That's certainly one thing that happens, and those can produce very identifiable changes in the game. But then there's, as mentioned before, there's these brainstorming sessions where the CSM gets to affect kind of in a broader view, maybe the direction or kind of mood that the game might take. And the one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet that I think is really important to remember about the CSM is that we are also an oversight organization. CSM2 had the actually great responsibility and kind of honor of getting to be the folks that really saw the insides of the post-production exploit. And I think we did a great job of really, I don't want to say keeping CCP honest, they were very open and forward with us in a way that they could only do under NDA. But we, I think, really served the greater EVE community by being the guys that got to listen to what really happened, have devs explain to us in much greater detail than they ever could to the general population in EVE, and let us look at what they said happened and evaluate as to whether we heard the whole story or not. And I think that's an important part that the CSM does as well. And it's a little hard sometimes to point at that as an accomplishment, but it's an important part of what we do.
There's somebody with a lot of experience there waiting for the mic in the audience. Please, Ella.
Hello, I'm Evie Opse from the second and the first CSM. And I had one question. One of the common complaints I hear from the people that play the game and are introduced to the whole concept of the CSM is that they are worried and concerned that the CSM is just a tool for large alliances, for selfish people, as we have seen with Larcanus, the whole incident. what does the third CSM has to say how they are representing EVE as a whole and not just their own playstyle? How are they improving EVE for the whole range of players, and what can the CSM say to the community that is worried about people in alliances and self-interest prevailing instead of the greater good of the game?
Maybe I see you all want to jump in. The question is how political is the council, but maybe
it's
we
very
start with
political.
the chairman. Huh?
It's absolutely political, and I know there was, get to you in a second, but you're talking about large alliances, and I'm from Goonswarm, the largest alliance, so yes, we lobby our votes, we have a primary to ensure that we put people on the council, and we have a voice. Yes, my number one priority is my style of gameplay, but that's when you're talking about a representative council, that's what you're going to have. Certain groups of people need to get together, get their votes together, and make sure that they put someone on the council who represents their interests. I represent Goonswarm's interests, but I don't do it to the detriment of everyone who plays EVE. I do hope that the issues that I put forth make the game better for everybody. But yeah, you're going to have 9 people with 9 different issues, so vote for the person who you think more closely takes care of what your vision of EVE should be.
That's
Valentine.
basically it. If you look at this council, there's 4 people from large 0-0 alliances, with the Goons and Masliu. I'm from a large alliance, but we're very, very different from the regular 0-0 alliances. And I don't know where you went. But Ava, you yourself were on the first 2 CSMs. You have Eric, you have Miesa on the CSM, Isler. All of those represent radically different styles of gameplay than the big 0-0 alliances. So clearly the process works because it's not just a council of 9 people from the 9 biggest alliances.
I think
the thing is, it stands to reason that being elections, the groups of people that are the largest actually get lumped together and get a number of votes for a single participant. We can see in the results of the last election that the number of votes required to be in the CSM is about 1,000. Many alliances can get that many votes either directly by themselves or through their allies. But however, there's also the possibility that people outside alliances gather that many votes. I'm proof of that. When I was elected, I was the co-director of a 4-member corporation that has no 0-0 presence. I'm not well known, I don't post on the forums, and that kind of thing. So it is possible to get elected by the random player if the thing is to get the average player interested in the process. If the average player isn't interested in the process, it stands to reason that it doesn't get represented, at least not willingly. There's other people here, even being an alternate on the second CSM where it was mostly populated by big alliance players, I was given to witness the fact that even 0-0 alliance leaders standing on the CSM, even though they may not actively play as Care Bears or missioners or whatever, they actually respect that kind of game and have valuable input to provide. So I'm not certain that the fact that they are representative of bigger 0-0 alliance is a deterrent to their ability to represent any kind of player.
Probably the best proof that it works is the 9-0 vote for dynamic missions we had in the council, like a victory for the Care Bears and us. It's in the protocol. So even the 0-0 alliance guys can be persuaded of the necessity of other issues that are more high-sec related.
I know sometimes Goonswarm gets this idea that we're out to destroy your game and ruin everything, and I have no idea why you would have that idea. But yeah, I mean, I'm really not sure where that comes from. However, we really do try to make EVE the best game it can be because we play it and we love it, and we don't want to turn EVE into some awful game, because then what would we do? Go play Second Life or something?
The point is that we have representatives from big alliances is just maybe because big alliances do care about EVE and EVE's endgame. As something totally opposite, what Eva mentioned as a fear is that we're doing like for 3 terms, or especially considering 0-0, about actually ruining the life of 0-0 big alliances directors. Hi, John. And making 0-0 better place for smaller alliances, individual players, and stuff like that. Also, we're not only discussing 0-0 issues, we're actively involved in discussions covering all the areas of the game, same as vice versa. So people who are representing Care Bears, Empire Dwellers, or whatever, they're taking their portion of the share in discussion about 0-0 issues. So diversity of CSM is something which is actually the best thing of CSM. So there will be, we discussed it briefly on CSM2 when someone expressed his fear that CSM will be in like CSM4 or 5 dominated by large entities, pulling the votes exclusively for their delegates. Even if that happen, and I think it is possible in one way, I'm sure that the guys who will be representing big alliances will do their job best they can to make EVE the better game, both for 0-0 guys, low-sec guys, or Empire guys. So I think that there shouldn't be any fear from anyone, any sphere of interests in EVE Online that CSM will ruin your game, as John said.
The last thing to keep in mind really is the get rid of the misconception that the CSM actually decides things. So there was this idea earlier that 0-0 alliances, being the majority of the council, would be able to dictate how the game is made and played for everybody. The thing is, we're an advisory council. We speak with CCP. We do not demand things. In the end, they decide with our input. Should they decide to take it into account, which so far they do. So there is no danger that the Care Bears and or pirates, whatever, are going to be slighted by the presence of 0-0 alliances in the council. That's not going to happen because CCP wouldn't let it.
But to conclude this, I mean, I think in the beginning there was this concern, and if you look at the numbers, the big alliances could have had much stronger representation if they had acted in the coordinated manners that some alliances seem to work, but it hasn't happened. So I guess that's sort of the answer to the concern that they have raised. But we have another question there.
As you've stated, there's some sort of a watchdog. Sorry, there's
a pick for the mic.
Yeah. You've stated that there's a kind of a watchdog function that you participate in. In addition, you also keep track of past issues to prioritize them and combine them with new things. What's your opinion about the different pieces of eye candy that have been presented on Fanfest past that have never made it into the game? What's the opinion of the CSM on that, and what's your discussions on those issues with CCP? I'm talking about flying in atmosphere, walking in stations, that kind of stuff.
Well, walking in stations is coming. You know, soon.
We're not developers or coders. All we do is we can complain at CCP for you, and sometimes we make demands and we pound on the table. But that's the best we can do. We can't twist their arm and say, you will now put Incarnate in with Dominions, we demand it. All we can do is raise our voices, and we do that for you already.
Yeah, as they were saying, it's not really up to us to say, you know, you promised us atmospheric flight in 2004. Where is it? Things get delayed. Development technology doesn't meet what they want to do. Things are still in the pipeline. They just sit in the backlog until the technology or the manpower or whatever they actually need to actually get it done can occur. It doesn't disappear, although I think Comet Mining did, but that was kind of a weird one. But yeah, it's all in the backlog. it's there. It's not disappearing. It will appear at some point.
Michelle?
I think when it comes to kind of when we're going to see some of these promised features, you know, the CSM in very many ways is just like the rest of the player base. We do bring it up when we see that there's a large question from the players about the status of things that have been promised. The reality is that CCP set some pretty lofty goals for some of these new features. You know, from a game developer's point of view, if you see what they're trying to do with walking-in stations, they don't want to just have, you know, an average walking-in stations experience. They want to have the very best in class of character animations, and what they're doing is cutting edge. And so I guess my reaction is I can't wait. Please, 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 soon, soon, soon. But when we get a chance to talk to developers and you find out about some of the amazing things they have planned, you understand that it's going to take a little time, but when we get it, I expect we're going to be pretty amazed with what we see. So I think we do try to encourage them to focus on the stuff we like, but there's kind of a laws of physics problem, and it just takes a large amount of time to do some amazing things, and I think they're working as hard as they can on those things.
I would like to add on this another aspect. I mean, even if you might not get walking station with the next but one expansion, what the CSM can still do, though, if you feel that you're not informed enough about, well, where's this fantastic feature, the CSM can ask for another dev blog on that feature to be published. So we can also influence the information policy of CCP. That won't give you working stations earlier, but it will give you more information, and we can help you to get that information.
But this brings us back maybe to the point of prioritizing. Having sat in on all the three meetings, I see that evolving, and I think that suggestion that was made earlier, that maybe the shopping lists need to be brought together under sort of major issues like simplification, like 0.0, which has been sort of a constant topic of discussion. So that is maybe for the council, but for the players, the more people that vote, the more people that sort of post their will in a visible way, the more weight the council is going to have vis-a-vis CCP. But I see, if I'm not mistaken, another experienced face there on the microphone.
Okay, so to the point that Eric just made, once upon a time there was a monthly QA made by the CSM. Whatever happened to that?
It's the CCP Q&A. Yeah, we sent him some questions. We never got the A's.
I actually spoke to Wrangler about that yesterday. Wrangler and Peter are going to have a wrestling match on stage later to solve that issue.
Mud wrestling.
They probably need to enhance their spam filters, because looks like they're filtering each other email.
For those wondering what we're actually talking about, CCP and CSM agreed to work out a system where we could put together a list of 10 quick questions that we can ask CCP for a quick answer. They'd answer 5 of them, and it happened, is it once a month?
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah, once a month. One of them got published. Then the second one was sent in July and never appeared. And we just sent in the last one. And there's a communication breakdown somewhere that we're trying to sort out.
But, I mean, this is maybe an issue for the discussion between the CSM and the CCP. They have been talking a lot about communication issues, which sort of involve reaching out more to the player base. Are there any more comments or questions from the audience? Do you guys, because we sort of should be wrapping up, I think now we should be finished before 2 o'clock. Do you guys want to make comments or a pitch for your next term on the council, those of you who can still serve another term?
I'm going to make an appeal to the player base, and that's for we are nothing but your mouthpiece to CCP. Well, we're more than that, but that's our primary function, is to be your mouthpiece to CCP. And if you guys aren't coming to the assembly hall and posting threads and voting in the campaigns and coming out there, then the effectiveness of the CSM is not going to be what it could be. We are only as effective as you enable us to be. So go out there and help people campaign, vote, post threads, argue in the threads, and help us hear what your side of the story is. Obviously, we're all going to filter it based on our own ideas, because that's what we were voted to do. But the more participation we get from you, the better we can do our jobs.
Yeah, basically, it comes down to never stop posting. It's
never stop posting.
Never stop posting.
Never. Posting stop. Never.
It's the participation from the player base that is the most important thing. If you vote, then yeah, vote for whomever you think represents your ideas the best. Well, I would campaign, but I can't run again. So it's very important though, because if you don't vote, yeah, sure, you can say, the whole process is a sham, it doesn't work, blah 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 blah. But if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. So if you want to complain, you'll have to vote.
So
we track
I
that.
can't say if I'm going to be running again or not. Still kind of healing from the wounds the last couple of times. But I do want to encourage everybody to participate. I hope some of the folks there in the audience are going to take it upon yourselves to say, yeah, I can make the commitment to take the time to do this. The CSM is a really valuable thing to EVE in general. And we need people that can devote themselves to the process. So I hope we're going to see some new candidates this time. And I also hope that everyone here finds someone they think they could support in votes. It's important, and the CSM does make a difference. So please get involved in one way or another. If nothing else, also hold people accountable. Basically, you get the government you deserve. If you see somebody that's running and you can't understand what their point of view about something is, ask them some questions and make sure their answers make sense. Try to see just who it is you'd be voting if you elected them.
When we say that the CSM puts a lot of time into EVE, and to be a CSM takes a lot of time, what takes all the time is reading all those threads, reading all the forums, and making sure that we are getting all the ideas that are out there. So we are actually spending tons of time doing this, reading the forums. So go out there and post more. Never stop posting.
On a more immediate thing, we're wandering around Fanfest the entire time. Come and talk to us. He's a funny guy. I mean, he's wearing an orange T-shirt. But yeah, we're here. Talk to us. If you have, a big, massive issue that you want to raise, and we haven't said anything on the forums or anything,
buy
talk
us
to
drinks.
us. Yeah, buy us drinks. Drinks are good.
Or you can always find us on Facebook.
But I think we'll then draw this conclusion. They've been a sitting target now, so now you know their faces. So now there'll be a moving target, I guess, for the rest of the conference. You can come up and complain and bitch. But I just wanted to say in closing this session that, because I'm an outsider to this world, it's been very interesting for me to have a chance to peek in. And there's a larger context to this. This is the first kind of democratic experience that has been developed by a gaming company or I think any kind of company to have elected representative from within the customer base. And we talk about not the players, but you as customers. So all those that vote and that participate in the discussion that leads up to the issues that the CSM takes up with CCP are also participating in a social experiment. And I think you're kind of privileged to be the first participants in what might be termed sort of the embryo of the 21st or even the 22nd century democracy. So on that note, I thank you for coming, and I think the next session starts in only a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Internet spaceship, serious business.